A Treatise of Satan's Temptations. By Richard Gilpin. A Discourse of the Malice, Power, Cruelty and Diligence of Satan. First part of Chapter 8. Of Satan's cunning and craft in the general. Several demonstrations, proving Satan to be deceitful, and of the reasons why he makes use of his cunning. We have taken a survey of our adversary's strength, and this will open the way to a clearer discovery of his subtlety and craft, which is his great engine by which he works all his tyranny and cruelty in the world, to the ruin or prejudice of the souls of men. Of which the Apostle in 2 Corinthians 2:11, speaks, as a thing known by the common experience of all discerning persons. His way is to overreach and take advantages, and for this end he useth devices and stratagems, which is a thing so ordinary with him, that none can be ignorant of the truth of it. We are not ignorant of his devices. This, before I come to the particulars, I shall prove and illustrate in the general, by the gradual procedure of these few following considerations. First, all the malice, power, cruelty, and diligence of which we have spoken, with all the advantages of multitude, order, and knowledge, by which these cruel qualifications are heightened. These are but his furniture and accomplishment which fit him for his subtle contrivances of delusion, and make him able to deceive. Neither hath he any rise of his power and knowledge but in reference to deceit. In Ephesians 6:11, 12, which is a place wherein the Apostle doth of purpose, present Satan in his way of dealing with men, his whole practice is set forth, under the term and notion of arts and wiles, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. This is the whole work of Satan, against which the furniture of that spiritual armor is requisite. And lest any should think that his power or wickedness are other distinct things in him, which are to be provided against, by other means of help, he presently adds, that these are no otherwise used by him, but in order to his wiles and cunning, and therefore not to be looked upon as distinct, though indeed, to be considered in conjunction with his subtlety and cunning, as things that make his wiles the more dangerous and hazardous. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Which words do but strengthen the Apostle's warning, and caution about the forementioned wiles, which are therefore the more carefully to be observed and watched against, because his power is so great, that he can contrive snares with the greatest skill and art imaginable. And his wickedness is so great, that we cannot expect either honesty or modesty should restrain him from making the vilest and most disingenuous proposals, nor from attesting a conveniency or goodness in his motions, with the highest confidence of most notorious lying. 2. Secondly, the subtlety that the Scriptures do attribute to sin, or to the heart, is mostly and chiefly intended to reflect upon Satan, as the author and contriver of these deceits. In Hebrews 3:13, there is mention of the deceitfulness of sin, but it is evident that something else besides sin is intended, to which deceitfulness must be properly ascribed, for sin being, as most conclude, formally a privation, or if we should grant it a positive being, as some contend, yet seeing the highest notion we can arrive at this way, excluding but the figment of Flacius Illyricus, who seems to make original sin indistinct from the very essence of the soul, is but to call it an act. Deceitfulness cannot be properly attributed to it, but with reference to him who orders that act in a way of deceitfulness and delusion, which ultimately will bring it to Satan's door. If here the deceitfulness of sin be devolved upon the subject, then it runs into the same sense with Jeremiah 17:9, the heart is deceitful above all things. But why is the deceitfulness fixed upon the heart? The ground of that we have in the next words. It is deceitful, because it is wicked, desperately wicked. But who then inflames and stirs up the heart to this wickedness? Is it not Satan? Who then is the proper author of deceit but he? It is true, indeed, that our hearts are proper fountains of sin, and so may be accused possibly in some cases where Satan cannot be justly blamed. Yet if we consider deceitfulness as a companion of every sin, though our hearts be to be blamed for the sin, Satan will be found guilty of the deceitfulness. It may be said a man complies with those things which are intended for his delusion, and so improperly by his negligence may fall under blame of self-deception. But it is unimaginable that he can properly and formally intend to deceive himself. Deceit then, not being from sin, nor ourselves properly, can find out no other parent for itself than Satan. Besides this, that these texts upon our rational inquiry do charge Satan with the deceitfulness of sin, they do over and above point at the known and constant way of Satan, working so commonly by delusion, that deceitfulness is a close companion of every sin. The deceitfulness of one sin is as much as the deceitfulness of every sin. Nay, further, that text of Jeremiah 17:9, shows this deceitfulness not to be an ordinary slight, but the greatest of all deceits above measure, and of an unsearchable depth or mystery. Who can know it? 3. Thirdly, all acts of sin, some way or other, come through Satan's fingers. I do not say that all sin is Satan's proper offspring, for we have a cursed stock of our own. And it may be said of us, as elsewhere of Satan, sometime we sin out of our own inclination and disposition. Yet in every sin, whether it arise from us or the world, Satan blows the sparks and manageth all. As David said to the woman of Tekoa, "Is not the hand of Joab with thee in all this?" 2 Samuel 14:19, so may we say, "Is not the hand of Satan with thee in every sin thou committest?" This is so eminently true, that the Scripture indifferently ascribes the sin sometimes to us, sometimes to the devil. It was Peter's sin to tempt Christ to decline suffering, yet Christ repelling it with this rebuke, "Get thee behind me, Satan," Matthew 16:23, doth plainly accuse both Peter and Satan. It is the personal sin of a man to be angry, yet in such acts he gives place to the devil. Both man and Satan concur in it, Ephesians 4:26. Paul's thorn in the flesh, 2 Corinthians 12:7, whatever sin it was, he calls Satan's messenger. He that submits not to God, doth in that comply with Satan, as, on the contrary, he that doth submit himself to God, doth resist the devil, James 4:7. Thanks.